What up guys, Shredded Otaku here, and today we're going to be going over something that I don't necessarily want to make a habit of, but I do kind of have a lot of faith in, and that is some general predictions that I have regarding the upcoming Nintendo Direct that I think is going to be coming a lot sooner than we think. Guys, really quick, if you like content like this, if you haven't already, please feel free to subscribe to the channel and check out the rest of the stuff we do, because I'm really not the typical Nintendo fanboy YouTuber on here. If you take a look at the channel, you'll understand we do a lot more here, and I really have some big plans going forward. So go ahead and check that out. Anyway, I digress, guys. What we're going to get into is the possibility of some mostly ports for things that I think are going to get announced here really soon. One thing, as a huge Nintendo fan, I've kind of played these games my whole life. I see their business model. I actually am an investor in the company myself. Not that I'm not invested heavily enough to where they give me any kind of feedback as to what they're doing, but I do pay attention a lot closer than most people do. And whenever they have a big release, like right now Splatoon 3, they stay very quiet about anything else that they're doing, because they want to make that, they want to make that sale, and I want them to as well. They don't want in the back of anyone's head other things they're going to have to purchase later this year. They want everyone's mind to be on Splatoon 3 right now. That's all you need to get. That is the game. Buy the OLED model that they just released, buy the game, buy the Pro Controller, buy the amiibos they're going to start putting on the shelves, which, by the way, in another video coming up, we'll be talking about the amiibo reprints they're doing. But outside of that, they have plans for software, for hardware. They're a company, they're a business, right? Like they're doing things, and rightly so. So a lot of leakers and insiders in the community and in the business have seen a lot of things for the last couple of years and have given predictions that have kind of seemed like they were false. Me, again, as a longtime Nintendo fan, I see where they're trying to slot the different games in the market as far as the fiscal year goes, and it makes sense to me why they would push it out to the point we're at now. Now, if you saw the thumbnail, maybe you see where I'm going with this, but Breath of the Wild 2, let's talk about that for a second. So that got delayed way further out than we thought. We got news for this way back, just years ago, right? Like the initial trailer, and it's slowly been worked on, and I mean, I personally am glad that they're putting the time and care they need to make this game right. But they aren't going to have a Zelda game in this fiscal year to sell. Now, as a business, Zelda is one of the biggest franchises that Nintendo has. They want a Zelda game on the shelf every year for a Zelda fan to pick up, like me, right? Like I just got my a lot of my color redone and a new tattoo. So you can see I have a Triforce on my hand. I'm going to buy a Zelda game every year. There's a lot of people like me that will do that. Nintendo knows that. They want your money, and they're gonna get it. But with Breath of the Wild 2 getting delayed, and I think with a title like that, like it honestly makes sense to slot it, maybe next year in the holiday season. That would be what I would think, right? But this year, going forward, what are we gonna sell the Zelda fans? Last year we got, at least we got DLC for the Age of Calamity. We always get something, right? So the rumors around the potential remakes of Wind Waker and Twilight Princess have been circulating for years, and it's really, I think, just been a question of where do we fit that in the map for a good sale. During the Zelda 35th anniversary, a lot of people said like, oh, we're gonna get this massive compilation, we're gonna get Skyward Sword, and then we're gonna get Wind Waker, and then we're gonna get Twilight Princess. And I was hopeful for that because I love Zelda. Obviously I'm a huge Zelda fan, but it doesn't make a lot of business sense to have Skyward Sword on the shelf and to be trying to sell you that, and also be marketing two other softwares, possibly combining those into one, right? Because they were ported to the Wii U, so they've already been remastered to 1080p. All we really need to do is port them and revise the control scheme a little bit to work on modern consoles, to work on the Switch. So there's not a whole lot of work to be done. And the companies that did the remastered versions for Wind Waker and Twilight Princess actually have stated openly that they're not working and have done no work on ports, modernized ports for those games. Like the last time they saw those games was when they worked on the Wii U versions of them, which means that if we are getting them, they are just straight ports, and Nintendo has enough internal power to where they don't need to outsource that kind of straight port. Like they're not going to revamp visuals, they're not going to revamp anything in the game itself. I would imagine just like some tightening of the controls, and obviously making that work without a Wii U gamepad. So a very straight, simple, seamless port that doesn't cost a whole lot of money to fund, but again, trying to market you another $60 title, or potentially two $60 titles, hopefully not, would be very difficult to do with Skyward Sword on the shelf. They already put the money, invested the money in that software, and they wanted that to sell. So now, this year, going forward, with Breath of the Wild 2 getting delayed, we are in the perfect position to slot the remakes of both Twilight Princess as well as the Wind Waker. And I personally think that we will see those guys. Like, I really have a lot of faith. And if we don't see them this year, I think that that's kind of a sign that they're not coming. But I think it would be a really big just faux pas as far as business tactics go to not do that. Because again, it's a very seamless, easy port that they could just kind of push over without a lot of struggle and manpower. Now, outside of that, guys, we also have seen, or I also have seen, a ton of rumors regarding other remasters. Some of which are from a lesser known series that, or one of which is from a lesser known series than people might be familiar with, and that is a remaster of Kid Icarus Uprising. This was a phenomenal game on the 3DS that did not get enough love and attention. It's kind of a cult classic on that system, but the 3DS, it's been almost a decade since this game released. Actually, I think more than a decade. I would have to double check on that, but modern times, modern gamers, especially the younger demographic that this is kind of marketed towards, have no idea what this game is. And it really was like it pushed the hardware quite dramatically. It released very early in the 3DS's lifestyle, or the 3DS's lifespan, but it did really push the hardware. And I do think that just with a little bit of cleanup and polish, it could look amazing on modern consoles. The one caveat of this title was that the control scheme was very, very difficult to kind of wrap your head around. You had to use a stylus in conjunction with your left hand. They even gave it like a little attachment that you could put on your 3DS to try to make it a little bit easier, but it really cramped your hands up bad. So modernizing that, giving it possibly motion controls with the detached Joy-Cons, and also the option of joystick controls, kind of similarly to what they did with Skyward Sword, would be incredible. And I would really like to see that happen. I think Kid Icarus, this game actually, it felt like it was going to be the start of a series that I feel like just didn't really get a chance to shine. And if this game does well, if this is remastered and it does well, sells well, we could see the potential for an entire new IP series of Nintendo going forward. And I think that's pretty freaking sweet. Now, the last rumor that I want to touch on is something that, again, has been circulating for years. But Metroid Prime 4 has been in development for as longer than Breath of the Wild 2. And we've been hearing about it for so long. And the development cycle for that game has just been in absolute turmoil. It's had to change hands completely. It's been scrapped and redone. Who knows the state of Metroid Prime 4? Nobody has any idea outside of a JPEG they put out years ago. But Business Insiders have also stated that a remaster of the original Metroid Prime has been in development for quite a while as well. And then it's ready to go now. Which would be great, because Metroid Prime is a series that really thrived on the GameCube. It got remastered on the Wii. It's been kind of hanging out on the Wii U eShop ever since. Which, by the way, if you did not download that Metroid Prime trilogy on the Wii U eShop, you really lost a golden opportunity, because those games are kind of lost to time now. But I digress. Perhaps that even is just all part of the business tactic, because now the only way to play Metroid Prime is to buy either the GameCube copies and boot up a GameCube, or put them in a Wii, or buy the multi-$100, very rare Metroid Prime trilogy that exists as a hard copy on the Wii in a lot of collectors' libraries now, including my own. So Metroid Prime, the original Metroid Prime, a remaster of that game would really open the door to, again, the modern demographic of younger gamers to say, wow, okay, so this is Metroid in first person. because it's going to be really hard to market Metroid Prime 4 to anyone other than people like myself that are kind of like old heads in the Nintendo community, because no one's really played the game. You know, we got Metroid Dread recently, which was technically Metroid 5, but that was the side-scrolling Metroid series that was like the base. That is the base like canon Metroid. Whereas Metroid Prime is actually more of like, it's almost fan fiction. Like the two series they're not directly related. And the Super Metroid fans are maybe gonna hate me for saying that, because it is kind of its own universe. But the way I've always seen it is kind of like, there's Dragon Ball Z and there's Dragon Ball GT. Or I guess a better comparison would be Dragon Ball Super and Dragon Ball GT, right? Dragon Ball GT exists, but it certainly does not exist in the same universe as Dragon Ball Super. Similarly, Metroid Dread does not exist in the same universe as Metroid Prime. It's a very different but amazing iteration of what Samus could be if it was a more modernized game. And if you go all the way back to this GameCube copy of Metroid Prime, it was so ahead of its time. Like even booting this game up now, like it looks fine. Like the resolution is going to vary depending on your setup, but the game itself was so ahead of its time. And seeing that game remastered for the modern era, I think would just blow people away and really hype up Metroid Prime 4. So, guys, now we've talked a little bit, and apologies for my excitement. You know, these are all games that I have very heartfelt ties to, and if they do get remasters, I'll gladly buy them again. But more than that, I would love to see the younger generation kind of pick these up and experience them. One thing that always blows me away is that when I talk about Zelda, because I'm a huge Zelda fan, everybody always brings up Twilight Princess, and you know, we are seeing a potential remaster of that as well. But very few people talk about Wind Waker, like in the grand scheme of things. Like people played it, but it's not one that sits in the front of people's minds when they think of Zelda like I would like it to. And I really think that if we see that modernized port of Wind Waker, it's going to give it a chance for people to say like, oh, like it might not look like the Zelda game I want, but when you get in and play Wind Waker, you'll realize that just like the whimsical nature of that game is it's just so great. Like I love it. It's one of my favorites. So yeah, guys, don't know if you guys are familiar with any of this news. Again, I don't want to make a habit out of doing rumor rants or prediction videos, but I do really have a lot of faith in these things coming forward pretty soon. As for the timing of this direct, again, Nintendo is not going to talk about it at all until Splatoon has made its sale. Their first week of sales is like the biggest thing that they want to show investors, because you know when I'm buying stock in the company of Nintendo, when anyone's buying stock in the company of Nintendo, we want to see how they're doing, how they're marketing their titles. So they're not going to put anything out until after those sales have gone up, because again, the only thing that Nintendo wants you to think about right now is Splatoon 3, and rightly so. You should pick up Splatoon 3. I'm going to be playing it. I'm going to be putting together a group on this channel. I'm probably going to start a Discord server so we could all get together and just start a little Splatoon community, because I really want to go hard. I think that game's going to be incredible. But I would say, if I'm going to give it a date, Splatoon launches on the 9th. We could see this direct anywhere from, I would say, the 14th to, the 14th looks like a good date, but the 14th, possibly the week after. You know, obviously, I don't have any inside information, guys, outside of just predictions and general knowledge of Nintendo, but if I'm going to give it a date, I would say mid-September. Definitely by the end of September, we're going to start hearing about some of these things. And, you know, as far as the timing where I think that they're going to slot these games, I would say probably, I mean, again, they're all remasters, right? So we don't need a ton of time, I don't think, to kind of hype these games up. A lot of people are familiar with them. But we also have a lot of really big titles already going into the holiday season. We have Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. We have the Persona 5 Royal Edition coming to the Switch, which isn't a first-party Nintendo game, but it's a huge JRPG that a lot of people have been wanting to play for a long time on a Nintendo console. That's huge, right? That's a very big game. I'm sure they're going to try to market. I'm sure Nintendo paid a lot of money to get that on their system. But you know, we also have Bayonetta 3 in late October. So we're kind of getting into the realm of, like, there's a lot of, and also Mario and Rabbids, the new one, Sparks of Hope. So we already have a lot of big titles for this holiday that need to get sold. I would say that if we do hear about these games, we probably won't see release dates anywhere before January. And I could be completely wrong on that, but I would be surprised if they went otherwise. We have not seen anything slotted for the 2023 calendar, and I think that, you know, like maybe the Zelda ports would be a great slot for like January, February, something like that. And then we'll probably see the other ones kind of trickle in throughout the year. So yeah, those are my predictions, guys. That is my hype rant. I hope you're all excited about the potential re-release of these games. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about those rumors. What you guys think about Metroid and the Zelda and the Kid Icarus. Have you guys played Wind Waker? Have you guys played Twilight Princess or Metroid Prime? Have you guys heard of Kid Icarus? Like, is this like a totally new thing to you? I'm really curious. Also, just like maybe what's your favorite Zelda game? If you have played those, if you're really familiar with the Zelda series, I'm curious, guys. What's your absolute favorite Zelda game? Me personally, my favorite Zelda game is Majora's Mask, just because it's so widely different, and I can go on forever about what, you know, the other things that make that game great. Even just like the development cycle and what the team went through to get that game released in such a short window that they had, and how it still turned out to be as amazing and unique as it is. I digress. But yeah, guys, what's your favorite Zelda game? Have you guys played these? Are you looking forward to these? Are you picking up Splatoon 3? Are you gonna hop on the Discord server that I'm gonna create and get down with us when we dominate in Splatoon 3? And yeah, guys. Anyway, if you like content like this, if you want to keep in this community, if you want to check out the other stuff we're doing, go ahead, check out the channel, subscribe, drop a like, and hope you guys have a good day.